It's now time for our main event with your host, Chris Tetrold Blade. Welcome to Once Upon a Turnbuckle.
Hello again, everyone. And as my guest, in the words of my guest that I've got with me today, we're back in the room after a few weeks off, trying to give myself some kind of summer break, which didn't really end up being much of a break. But we are back with a brand new episode of Once Upon a Turnbuckle. And it was fitting fashion, really, as a wrestling podcast, to have someone on from both ends. So someone who's involved in wrestling and someone who is also a podcaster. So former or maybe returning pro wrestler?
Yeah, returning. I am returning. Yeah, returning in August. We'll touch on that, no doubt. And
host of the hugely popular podcast, The Caiman Show, Caiman Griffiths. Well done. Well done. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, my good man. It's a pleasure, Chris. Thanks for having me on here. It's a bit weird. I had to bring a pen and paper just to feel comfortable around these settings, because it's normally me firing the questions at other people, etc. But yeah, let's just mix it up a bit and see where we go.
See where we go. Yeah, I've wanted to speak to you for a while. I mean, I discovered your podcast through a wrestling based guest, and I thought that you, like me, did a wrestling podcast. We'll get more into your podcast a bit later, but it kind of went from there. And the more I learned about you, the more I thought you were absolutely perfect guy to have on here, and I hugely enjoy your show anyway. But
thank you, man.
To sort of bring it, in order of relevance, I suppose, let's talk about your relationship with wrestling. So when did that first start? Let's go right back to the beginning, to when you discovered wrestling. Were you a fan to begin with?
Yeah, I think it's pretty much a general answer this to start with, the beginning roots. I was always a fan in school, always grabbing kids in the lunchtime and pile driving them around the back of the sports hall, goddamn nearly breaking necks. It's all real to you then, isn't it? From there, WCW used to come on a Sunday afternoon, I think, on ITV.
Yes, it did.
Back then. Yeah, back in the glory days.
Like Worldwide or something, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, that's right. Worldwide Wrestling. I was watching guys like Barry Windham, Sting, Lex Luger, the Steiners, etc. Stunning Steve Austin. Yes. All these guys. And then I was drawn as well. I remembered him from the WWF, now WWE, Ravishing Rick Rude as well. He was a mainstay on that show as well. And I just started grabbing guys from the street then on a Sunday afternoon after WCW Worldwide. Come on, we go into Majors Stadium. There was this field called Majors Field. Right. It must have been around the time of SummerSlam 92, because I named it a stadium. Awesome. So we went around there. We had these 5 belts, which I'd made out of a gym mat cut up into pieces with ice cream container lids with permanent marker on. We had the World Television Championship, not a television camera in sight, by the way. We had the World Tag Team Championships, and I think we only had about 3 wrestlers, and the World Heavyweight Championship. So, yeah, I had 2 belts, and there were 3 wrestlers in this made-up promotion of ours. And it was all real to me then. And we were fighting for our lives. I was always a bit bigger, a bit taller than the rest of them, etc. So I had a bit of an advantage. Totally legit. This one guy came along. He was from across the estate. He was over the other side of the field, the other side of the border. Yeah. He came along. His name's Adrian. Shout out, Adrian. We always talk about this if I see him out and about. So I DDT'd him, and I didn't know, and I genuinely didn't know, that there was a rock where his head was about to plant, and it was a legitimate DDT, and Adrian was out. And I was like, oh my God, I've killed Adrian. So guys, backyarding, I don't condone it. This was before backyarding was even a thing, mind, all right? This was just a group of kids trying to portray what they see on the television with zero training. So this is why I say training is very important. It shows you how to do things, and it also shows you how not to do things. And DDTing someone on a rock was certainly not the way forward. Yeah, live and learn. I spend my life living and learning this, You never stop learning. That's another thing in wrestling. But it's actually getting into the professional side of things then, and actually wrestling in wrestling rings, etc. Being from South Wales, and in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was nothing around. Not a lot of people had the internet then either. So you know, that you didn't have a clue basically where to go to become a wrestler. I'd ask loads of people as well. You know, I'd go to shows, I'd ask promoters or wait outside locker rooms for wrestlers, how do you become a wrestler? Often the answer was, you don't, you know? It's like, all right, it was still somewhat protected then.
Yeah.
But I was looking through Power Slam magazine, run by Finley Martin. I had him on the show a few weeks ago. I'm not sure if you saw. Great guy, world of knowledge.
Yeah.
But in that magazine at the back there was an advert for a training camp with NWA-UK Hammerlock.
Yes, I remember this. Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I was
on the verge myself, sort of.
Were you? Yeah.
I would never have made it, but yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, there's an opportunity out there, and I remember they had some kind of TV show on at the time as well.
That's right, Transatlantic Wrestling Challenge.
That's what it was.
Well, funny enough, the Transatlantic Wrestling Challenge ring that you saw there, I ended up buying that ring, and that became the Celtic Wrestling ring for a time as well, before it started falling apart under our asses, you know. But yeah, I didn't drive at the time then, so I saw the advert. I thought, I got to do this. So I roped a friend of mine. We've all got our one friend who'll do anything you ask him to, right? He wasn't a wrestling fan, but I tried to make him become a wrestling fan. I got him partially there, and then I said, right, we need to jump on the National Express, and we need to go to this wrestling training camp. Fair play to him. George Robertson, my glasses are off to you. As I always say, I don't have a hat. But thank you so much for coming with me. So he came with me on the National Express. We travelled down to Hammerlock, trained under the knowledge of the late Andre Baker, God rest his soul. He did a lot for me, hell of a lot for me, and John Ryan, who I believe still may be on the circuit, John Ryan. I'm not 100% sure about that, but wealth of knowledge. On this particular camp as well, we had NWA Ireland, who were affiliated with NWA UK. All the guys from there were on the camp as well. So Fergal Devitt, he was one of the guest trainers, aka Finn Balor.
Yeah.
So he taught me how to German suplex. And I believe he gave me my first chop as well, which, are we swearing or not?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, which, by the way, fucking killed. All right, it did. It's just like, oh my God, all these years watching it, when you realize that there's some choreography going on and everything, it's like, right, chops. How do they do those, and how do they work those, and how does it make that noise? Well, you know, I got to give the game away here now. There's no secret, right? It's just a palm of someone's hand coming flat into your chest at force, and it kills. I had his handprint there for about a week after, I think. But yeah, that's absolutely, yeah. It might as well. They might still be remnants there now, you know. But yeah, so I wrestled on that camp. It was a week-long camp. Aching all over. The warm-up absolutely butchered me. I was in atrocious physical condition at the time. My cardio levels were way down there somewhere. So literally, we were looking around. It was a full camp as well. It was sold out. There must have been about 50 people on this wrestling camp.
Wow.
And it was in the East Street Martial Arts Centre I believe that's in Ashford. It's either Ashford or Sittingbourne. Hammerlock used to work between two. And there was just puddles of sweat all over the floor. So you went through the paces way before you got in the ring. We were training on the mats way before we got in the ring. Eventually we got in the ring then, and it was like, wow, I'm in the ring. You know, it was fascinating. It was like, I'm actually in the wrestling ring. This is great. And then rope running, you'd have welts all over your back from these things. All right. They're not as springy as they're made out to be on the TV and everything. They cut right into your flesh. You know, they tear chunks out of your flesh. So I had big red stroke purple marks on my back from these ropes. They put us together in the later stages of the camp then to process what we've learned and do like a 10-minute match each. I was gassed out to hell and back by the end of it. But I managed to get through a match, and the rest of the trainees were all around the ring acting as a crowd would and everything. So you had to work off them, play the crowd. Yeah. It was great. I was screwed. I was knackered. I was in agony. But I couldn't wait. When I got back home, I couldn't wait to get back on that National Express bus for the next camp. So I started from there then, just jumping on the National Express, grabbing whoever I could to come with me to train down there. Even on just go down on a Saturday and sleep there, and then train on the Sunday as well. Then come back on a National Express. You had to be committed. But I spoke with Andre Baker then. I was like, look, we've got nothing in Wales at the moment in terms of wrestling training. I look for a venue for you. I'll do all all the groundwork and everything. If you just bring some training, I'll bring people to the training camp, to the training school. And he was like, he just said to me, yeah, all right, find a venue. I was like, what, just like that? And he was like, yeah, find a venue. I was like, okay. So I went then. I was working in a surf shop at the time called Legends. Guy working with me, Richie, he lived in the Cathays area. He was a student in Cardiff. And he said, I know just the place. And I was like, pray tell me. And he was like, Cathays Community Hall. I was like, let's have a look. So I went over with him, had a look. Met Andre Baker there a couple of weeks later. And he was like, great hardcore venue. I was like, fantastic. Can we do it? Yeah, we can do some shows here as well. I was like, brilliant.
Wow.
So he came down then. We were doing the training down there. They were coming down. I think it was just like once a month at the time. So I get back up to Kent as well whenever I could. I started doing matches in Kent then. I made a debut down there in Margate in a Rumble match.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure I was ribbed. They reckon I wasn't. But it went 10, 9, 8. I was like, right, I'm going to be mean. I'm going to be mean. 7, 6, 5. Mean. I always pound myself in the head before I go as well. It's just to get in my zone, you know, method acting, if you will. Yeah. But 3, 2, 1. Now I've had the time of my life. That was my debut, coming out big, mean, horrible. And I just thought, I've got to roll with it. It's the theme tune from Dirty Dancing, the movie Dirty Dancing. Yeah. I meant to be this big, horrible Welsh thug here, like, you know, this anti-English Welsh thug. And yeah, they're just going to pull me apart. But I went in there, I acted up to it. I just rolled with it, embraced this dodgy tune. I think I might have even been singing it on my way to the ring. Got in the ring then, and then proceeded to have my ass handed to me on a stick, you know. I lasted about 7 minutes, which isn't bad for a debut in a Rumble.
Yeah.
But yeah, you had the piss beaten out of me. But what a great experience. I did manage to get a few bits in as well, which was good. But a Scottish wrestler then by the name of Conscience eliminated me over the top rope. And I'd be honest, I was screwed. I was glad to get out of there at that point. And yeah, the chops came into effect as well, as they always do for the new guy.
Did the crowd do the woos every time, the Ric Flair woos every time?
Oh yeah, always. They love it. They love it. And they always do the one mores then as well when you've had enough, just when your chest is caved in, all right, you know. But yeah, I was glad to get out of there then. But I think the next show I did after that was in Cathays Community Centre. And Andre said, right, we're going to give you a singles match. I was like, oh, am I ready? He's like, when are you ready? I was like, yeah, that's a good question, I suppose. I suppose if I left it to myself or to my own mind, I'd never be ready. Or maybe I'd be ready before I was ready. Well, it's you know, a double-edged sword, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
But he said, no, you're fine, you're ready. So I was in a gauntlet match then. It started off, I can't remember who it started with, but there were two people starting off. Exodus was one of them. He eliminated the first guy. So then it was me and Exodus. I eliminated Exodus. Then it was me and Conscience again. And Conscience again. And he picked me up in some sort of razor's edge effort, then slammed me down, and then I was immediately in a crossface. And by God, you can't fake that move. No. You cannot fake that move. So I had to tap out then as well. But it just went from there. That's how it all began anyway. I carried on wrestling on Hammerlock shows. Okay. And eventually then I started running my own promotion, which I expect we'll get to in a bit. Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of piecing it together. So you and your mates started off, you pretty much put together your own promotion between you. I mean, we all did it with wrestling figures and everything, but it was, you know, if you start to do it yourself, you've always got in your mind, you know, what you want to do with it.
That's it.
And then you actually sort of, so were they the first steps then in you getting your own promotion, or how long did you then wrestle for before you got to that point?
It was a good, I'd say 2 years before I launched Celtic Wrestling. I think the only reason, and I always say this, the only reason I did launch Celtic Wrestling was to put a bit more of a spotlight on myself for other promoters and to show other promoters, right, this is what I can do, but I'm not getting a chance to show anyone that I can do this. Okay. So I put myself in the matches I wanted. I put myself against the opponents I wanted, like Tracy Smothers, Steve Corino, people like that, you know. I put myself up against them. Obviously, I'm paying all this money for them. Why not get the rub myself? Yeah. And, you know, I can go on to better things then. So from there, I got a talent deal with Irish Whip Wrestling. We'd go to them. They'd come to us.
Yeah.
I wrestled Sheamus over in Irish Whip Wrestling in front of about 200 people.
Wow.
I got to waffle him with a belt. I did. That was nice.
Brilliant.
I thought, oh,
Ideal.
come on, give me the belt. Just for one night, give me the belt. But it never happened. He hit me then with Celtic Slam, I think he was using at the time.
Okay.
I wrestled Pierre from the Quebecers over there as well, as an outside talent in a triple threat. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, Pierre Carole, his name. He may be joining me on the podcast soon. We've been talking as well.
That would be amazing.
I wrestled a whole bunch of their up and coming talent.
I was going to say PCO is normally on my wall. I've got a signed comic graphic of Villain Enterprises, who I absolutely love. Obviously, he was part of that. So that would be cool.
It's just magnificent. He's great as well. What he's done now as well. He's in the best shape of his life now, and he's like, I think he's 50 something now as well.
Because he got the ROH World Title, didn't he?
That's fantastic.
Amazing,
but crazy stuff. But yeah, sorry, man, I've lost your question with my drift somewhere now.
Just keep talking about.
Just keep drifting.
Yeah, just keep drifting. Yeah, you were talking about sort of the guys that you worked with, which was one of the things that I really wanted to find out as well, is who you've managed to share a ring with and rub shoulders with. So, you've dropped a few in there. Are there any other really memorable ones that you've had that you was sort of like kind of dream come true getting in there with?
I'd say the one which was most dream come true for me was Steve Corino. I loved his work in ECW. I went through a hardcore phase as well at one point, where I was that proverbial guy who would end up with a face full of crimson, couldn't see, bled all over the place, And I went in with Steve Corino, and he was the first guy of, I suppose, I want to be careful how I say this, named stature, I was going to say. The first guy who's been on mainstream television, ECW had a good following, a good platform. The first guy out of the big three, then we'll say, right?
Yeah.
Which was WWF, WCW, and ECW. So he was the first one out of any of those that I got to wrestle. And I won't say it's the best match I've ever had, but it's definitely the best learning experience in a match that I've ever had, if that makes sense.
Yeah. That's probably more worthwhile, isn't it, really?
Yeah, definitely. I know if I had another match with him, well, not right now. I need to get in shape again first. But,
excuses.
Yeah, always excuses. Always, what a heel, right?
Yeah.
But, I think if I had a match with him like 2 years later on, after that one, I think it would have been a lot better from my standpoint, that I would have been a lot more comfortable doing it. But backstage in the curtain, when he was in the ring, my heart was doing that.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh my God, I'm actually going to wrestle Steve Corino now. This is nuts. He put some good things in that match as well.
Yeah.
He grabbed a Budweiser bottle from the crowd.
Right.
He smashed it on the ring post. And the next thing you know, it's digging right in my forehead. And I feel this big warm gush on my face. I'm like, ooh, that's warm. And I was like, whoa, I can't see either,
I was going to say, what is that like? I've got to ask the obvious question, because I don't go around doing it to myself, not that often. I've seen, what was it, The Dark Side of the Ring? Oh, what's his name? I can't think what his name was. Nick Gage, was it? I think the guy who was like really, really hardcore.
Yeah.
And, the things he used to use, like pizza cutters and stuff on people and whatever. I mean, what's it feel like, first of all? I mean, do you really know what's going on? You probably weren't expecting that, I guess.
No, it was, I was cool with it. I was totally cool with it, because Steve Corino, let's make it an ECW rules match. Let's make it hardcore.
Yeah.
And, he was like, right, so what do you want to do? I said, there's nothing I won't do, honestly. I'd like to get a bit of color as well. I said, get a bit of sympathy. He was like, yeah, get yourself a bit of sympathy. That's great. And we just worked the bottle for the whole of the match, and it kept coming into play, the neck of the bottle, which is what he rammed into my forehead. It's at the time, in terms of pain, I suppose adrenaline takes over, so you don't really feel that, but like I said, you do feel like this big rush of warmth all over your face, because the blood literally mixed with the sweat and everything, and the way your heart's pumping and the adrenaline's flowing, it just covers your face completely. You're blind. You don't know where the hell you are. But by the fans' reaction, you can tell this is working. This is working.
Go with it.
There they are. in the palm of our hands. Let's just go with it. You do hope as well that this blood sort of dries up and runs out your eyes a little as well.
It doesn't take much, does it, really, to get a crowd going? Let's be honest.
No, that's it. It's, there's ways and means to do it. I mean, in COVID now, it's going to be a bit more difficult because they're telling you at the moment in wrestling shows, don't get the crowd going. And what you're trained to do, one of the key things you're trained to do as a wrestler is to read the crowd, engage the crowd, know when to bring them up, know when to bring them down, know when to make them pop. And it's like, right, we can't do any of that now. The game has changed, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose, you know, the guys who have been doing these empty arena shows as well, I can imagine
so difficult,
very difficult. But then when you've got them there and you still can't use them, that's got to be more of a mind bender, really, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, hopefully now, after August, is it the 7th or the 9th? I don't know, one or the other. One of them, anyway. 7th or the 9th. Restrictions in Wales are being pulled as well. I think they already have been in England, in late July.
Yeah, they pretty much opened up. Let us do what we want.
Yeah, but we've obviously we've got the Welsh government looking over us as well there, so we're always a couple of weeks behind. Yeah. So they've said, right, August, I think it's the 7th, I want to say. Mm-hmm. They're going to pull restrictions then. So I'm booked to wrestle on Pro Wrestling Carnage on August the 28th. And if you've seen any of my stuff, 99.9% of my stuff is crowd work. It is. It's crowd work. It's feed into the crowd. It's getting the crowd chanting, getting the crowd behind you, picking people out from the crowd, getting them on side sort of thing, It's all crowd work. So, I'll be like a boat with no oars if there's no crowd to play with. But like I said, touch wood, hopefully things are going to come back together for us, and it'll be a different ball game then.
How long has it been since you've been in the ring?
June 2018, I tagged with Rene Dupree against Team KO. That was one of 2 comebacks I made that year. Okay. Prior to that, it was April 2016. And there was 2 comeback matches I had for Welsh wrestling. Mm-hmm. I'll always dabble back, dip my toe back in. It's hard to get out of it, Yeah. Once you're in, you're in. It's like, I don't know. It's if you've ever eaten meat and then you turn vegetarian, it's you'll always, I think anyway, have that inkling or that little itch in your mind saying, "Oh, I could murder a steak or I could murder a burger," Or if you've ever smoked. And particularly when you see someone else smoking, it's like, oh, well, that looks nice, It's the same with wrestling. Yeah. More so, exactly going back to that smoking statement. If you see someone else doing it, you think, oh, I could do that. Yeah. I want to do that, Yeah. So,
it's a proper sort of old school style story. I've spoken to some greats on this show, back from like the 70s, 80s and that, and they've all, the same elements were there. You really have to graft to get to these places to train. They take you apart, but then you come back. Yeah. It's in you then. You can't really get away from it. And then when you step away from it, you still can't seem to get away from it. You're always involved in some way. So just talk a little bit about the show, give it a little bit of plug, I suppose, the show that you'll be part of, what's going on, where is it? And
cool. Well, the company is a brand new company called Pro Wrestling Carnage. They're crowning their first champion on that night. It's Saturday, the 28th of August. The First Mutation, the show is called, is now sold out as well. There's a battle royal for the number 1 contender to face Dangerous Danny Owens for the title. I'm entering the battle royal, and hopefully I'm going to win the battle royal, face Dangerous Danny Owens, pull him apart, and become the first ever Pro Wrestling Carnage heavyweight champion. Imagine that. What a comeback, right?
That'll be a comeback. And you could have the belt dangling, in your background on the show and everything.
There's a space here or there for it. I'll find somewhere for it, definitely. It makes perfect sense to me anyway, Chris,
Absolutely.
But we'll see how that goes. I need to hit the gym quite hard. I need to start getting some cardio up and everything. It's difficult though. Wrestling cardio is completely different to normal cardio. I could run on a treadmill 5 hours a day, right? And then I could have a wrestling match and I'd still be gassed out. It's like little bursts of energy. You go in from a full-blown burst of energy to nothing. to another full-blown burst of energy, then to nothing again. So I think circuit training might be the way forward here, instead for this, to get back in, rather than to look for that body, which, let's face it, I'm never going to get back at 43 years young,
You never know. Never say never.
Well,
Have you had words with them about your entrance music to this one?
I have indeed. And they have suggested, I'm not sure if you're aware, I used Dakota by Stereophonics for several years.
Okay.
And always on the chorus, I'd burst through the curtain and it'd be, "Ah!" So they've requested Dakota. So I've said, yeah, I'll have Dakota, but can I modernize it with a little starting line of, "And we're back in the room." Just to, I'm all about the gimmick these days. It's I'm a walking, breathing, living gimmick now. So I know what I am. Let's just be that.
That's a nice segue into the next part that I was going to ask, actually. So, to talk about your gimmick when you were wrestling, what was it? And I'm guessing you weren't christened Caiman.
No, that's absolutely correct. I was christened Carl Griffiths, Carl with a K. I was called Caiman, Caiman, as a youth growing up. Yeah. I was always fascinated by reptiles, particularly crocodilians. Mm-hmm. I always thought, right, if I'm a wrestler, I want to be just like the Raven or like the Rhino or something like that, with like one word rather than Carl Griffiths or Mr. whoever, Yeah. And then I was watching Discovery Channel one day while I was still wrestling with which name to have. No pun intended, by the way.
I'm sure.
I was wrestling with what to call myself. And then I came across the crocodilian species of Caiman. And I was like, Caiman? Everyone knows me as Caiman already. Caiman, it sounds exactly the same pretty much. It's just spelt different. Yeah. And it looked cool in green letters on a pair of pink trunks. Let's go for that. So that's when Caiman was born. Awesome. He was born in NWA-UK Hammerlock, and he went from there. As for gimmick, I sort of grew into myself. My gimmick was just, and a lot of people say this as well, just pretty much, you try and be things you aren't, first of all, Like, first of all, when I went into that Rumble in Cardiff, I thought, right, I'm going to be a heel. Everyone's going to hate me. I'm going to turn them sick to their stomachs. Yeah. Now, I went out, and then I got the biggest pop I've heard in my life, It's like, oh, great. I'm a face then, I guess. So I was always taught, right, you're a face. If the crowd is with you, stay with them, keep them on you. So I did. I remained face then. I did for pretty much all of my career, in Wales, at least anyway. I'd go to England. I'd play the heel there, particularly on rugby days, when England would perhaps beat Wales in the rugby, biased referee. We'd go out to the national anthem wearing a Welsh shirt and everything, just play that. You get everyone, meh, meh, meh. I'd always try and be flamboyant in my colour choices when I'd work heel as well. Okay. So I'd always wear pink up in England. And this one time up there as well, apologies if I'm drifting, but I'll go into this story. I had this car as well, right? This zebra stripe Nova, but it was a pink and black zebra stripe Nova. I typed into eBay, pink car. I didn't care what it was. I wanted a pink car. All right. So I bought this car then. It's the car I learned to drive in as well.
Right.
So I was wrestling for a show for Johnny Rose, HCW show. Mm-hmm. And we were there. It was just kids everywhere. It was a proper kids show, So it was heroes and villains all over the place. Yeah. Yay boo, all that. And they were all around the ring after. Who's the wussy in the pink, pink, pink? Who's the wussy in the pink, pink? So I couldn't get out of the ring for ages because there were literally 100 kids all around the ring, everywhere. It was about 3 deep, either side of the ring. I managed to get out eventually, get backstage, got dressed, got myself sorted, get back to my car then. All these kids gather around the car, about 100 kids then, all banging the bonnet. And all up banging the boot and everything. Who's the wussy? And I'm thinking, right, I got to get out of this car park. I can't. There's 100 kids around you. If I move this car, I'm in a whole world of trouble. I'm going to jail, So anyway, eventually one of the faces come out or something and managed to part these kids like Moses in the Red Sea. I bailed out of there. I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. What amazing heat.
Yeah.
All brought on by the color pink. And being Welsh, it's crazy. But yeah, my gimmick, I suppose, as a whole, sorry for drifting, Chris.
Don't worry.
But my gimmick as a whole, I didn't have a gimmick as in like, oh, look, he's a crazy doctor or he's a lumberjack or anything like that. I was just Caiman, later nicknamed the Crocodilian Psycho because a bit psychotic. Again, it's just a play on my normal personality. And I'd act sort of as this character, act how Carl Griffiths would like to act in these situations.
Okay.
But rational thinking takes over in reality, and he knows he can't because he'll get arrested. But in the wrestling ring, as Caiman, he can do whatever he wants. And it's what I would like to do. Caiman is who I would like to be, you know?
That's all I think most wrestling gimmicks is. It's an alter ego, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just turning the volume up on your actual self. Yeah,
that's it.
I think a lot of people fall into the trap of promoters putting gimmicks on them. Like I've done it myself in Celtic wrestling. I wanted certain gimmicks. I wanted a jobber, right? And I had this lovely guy by the name of Stephen Barter, and he wrestled as this guy called the Workman. That's a gimmick I created. Right. And basically, I think we handed him about 80 losses, something like that. Right. And if we built him up as whenever he goes out, our crowds were loyal as well. So we'd have a regular crowd in Merthyr, regular crowd in Cardiff, and we'd scatter ourselves about a bit as well. But Steve Barter, then the Workman, we'd have him come out to the ring. We'd say, right, go out for there, out the back, grab a load of dirt, rub it in your face. Right? So he'd do that, rub it all down his arms, rub it in his high-vis vest, which he'd wear to the ring. He'd have working jeans and like working boots and a hard hat, Lovell hard hat. Other hard hats are also available. He'd wear that to the ring. He'd come out to the YMCA as well then. And yeah, he'd always lose. But then we had one of our top heels, Chris Recall, face him one day. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Chris Recall. He's just made a comeback now after about...
through your show, I am.
Yeah. Great guy, great wrestler, great talent. I'm so pleased he's come back. I think he's had a 6-year hiatus where he hasn't, stepped in a ring, but he's just started back with Welsh wrestling. He's thoroughly enjoying it. But yeah, back to my point, he's a great talent. One of our top heels. He was, multiple Celtic wrestling heavyweight champion, but he was wrestling the Workman this one day in the studio bar in Merthyr. And then all of a sudden, Workman, I don't know if it was like a roll-up or something, but he caught in with something. And then it was 1, 2, 3, and the crowd would just say, oh my God, the Workman's won. And YMCA was playing, he was celebrating, touching all the fans and that, cuddling the fans. It was a moment, So, yeah, I came onto that. We were talking about gimmicks, weren't we? But that wasn't the gimmick that Stephen Barter wanted. He asked me then, he said, look, I'd like to get away from the Workman. I was like, all right, well, the Workman served you well. We've got our happy ending. I knew he was going off then to train at Landstorm's Wrestling Academy. Oh, okay. I said, when you come back, we'll just call you Stephen Barter. Or I remember then when you come back, there was this children's entertainer. I used to do things just to entertain myself as well, right? There was this children's entertainer at like this Butlins holiday camp years ago called Mr. Stevie B. And I thought, we're going to call you Mr. Stevie B. So, that's who he became then. He was Mr. Stevie B. He was a heel. He had this new arsenal of wrestling that he'd learned from Lance Storm. Cool. And he brought it to himself and he got over as an upper mid-card heel. Like, it was great, So... yeah, but that was the gimmick that he wanted to portray himself, and we gave him the run with that, really, then. Yeah. Then he injured his knee, and he hasn't wrestled since, so such is life. But never say never.
He had his happy ending in the middle. I loved it when Barry Horowitz did that, and the WWF with him.
That's it. It's a great story.
It is. I don't think you can do it too often on mainstream TV. They can't pick too many to do it with, but yeah, exactly, in that kind of like local setting when nobody's expecting it. Yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah, well, when he started as well, he was like, we're guiding him through every match sort of thing as well. It's like, right, you're a trainee basically, but keep doing this nice and simple. Some of them were 10-second matches, some of them were 60-second matches, and then they go on as he'd get more comfortable and everything. So it was like training on the job for him as well, if you will, But it was great. And he's a great guy, and I want to say a big hello to him. Stevie B, Stephen Barter, loves you.
Hey, I'll have him on as well.
Have him on, man. Yeah,
he's
a great guy. He's a great guy.
Track him down. Right, let's move on then, and let's talk about your podcast, because this is really what led me to you. The first video I think that came onto my radar was the one that you did with Nick Dinsmore. Eugene?
Oh, yeah. Oh, how could I forget Nick? I wrestled Nick as well. Of course I did. Yeah. We wrestled together, me and Nick as well. I'll quickly chuck this one in as well.
Yeah, go on.
He came on to Celtic. He was on the show. I was like, right, I want to wrestle with you and I want to tag with you. He was like, well, let's do both. I was like, cool. Can we do this then where we wrestle and then Scouse and Ham, great little tag team we had, Method of Madness, they become branded as. They interfere halfway through our match. Well, not even halfway through. We just did like 5 or 10 minutes. That's all.
Yeah.
They do the double whack on us. We bail them out of the ring. It's a no contest, so it's you and me against them instead. Then this was when Chris Rico, who was my tag team partner at the time with the Tie Dye Mafia, live and let tie dye. He was out injured, so I was still tag team champion. Then I brought in for one night to defend the titles with me, Nick, Eugene Dinsmore. We weren't going to defend the belts. But we defended them then against Scouse and Ham, who had interfered in our match. So yeah, Nick Dinsmore. Yeah, that's the first one that you saw, Nick Eugene Dinsmore.
I think it must have been in a mutual wrestling group or something.
Yeah.
That you shared it. So I naturally thought, I watched that one and naturally thought you had a wrestling podcast. And then I noticed you had a couple of other episodes which stepped outside of that realm. And I must admit, short of saying I'm hooked to it, because I can't watch it all the time, but I just splurge on it. So I'll let you talk about the show, really introduce how it came about. We had a chat before we started recording about sort of where it started, but just give a rundown as well, firstly, of how it came about, but the breadth of variety of guests you've had on there, because it's nothing short of amazing, really.
No, it's cool. I can't believe where it is now as well and how quickly it seems to have got there. It all started with a man living on his own in lockdown, basically, stuck in 4 walls and a roof. Couldn't go to work. Couldn't really go outside the door. Couldn't go for a pint with my mates. Couldn't do anything, So I just thought, I'm going to buy a podcasting microphone. There it is. So I did that. My cousin said to me, there's this audio platform for podcasts called Anchor. You can do anything on there, it's great. You can put your podcast out, you can edit it on there. You share it to Spotify and all the other platforms. I thought, great, I'll have a go. So I did episode 1 and I just did it completely off the cuff, talking absolute shit, made it up. I don't know if you've heard that one. Why don't men have boobs? Yeah, why don't men have boobs? Basically, that was the top. Well, it's on the YouTube now as well. I put a few visuals up with it as well. So I put that on. Then I found a poetry book, deep, dark poems of these poems which I wrote in the 90s. Now, I went through a little bit of a dark, shady stage in the 90s, right? I went down some dodgy paths, shall we say. All right, then I went to literally went to the other side. I woke up on life support and everything because of the shit which I was putting into my body and stuff. Wow. But I've come out the other end, so I'm happy to talk about it. Cool. But I found this one poem from those days. And can I just say before I recite any of this, this isn't me in this poem. This is just me trying to shock whoever finds this book and reads it. Okay. And it went something like, his parents sleeping in their bed, but what has gone is this boy's head. By his bedside lies a knife. The boy must take his parents' life. And it goes on and on and on. Okay. And then he kills his parents, kills the cat, and then he ends up jumping off the viaduct and everything. It's dark, man, really dark. Yeah. But again, I can't emphasize enough. I had no intentions of murdering my parents. It's not about them. It's just like, like a scriptwriter in Hollywood, like Quentin Tarantino, half the stuff that happens in his films, all right? I'm sure he hasn't done 99.9% of the things that we see in his movies. No. So yeah, this was not biographical. That's the term I'm looking for. But so that was the second podcast. Then I had a friend of mine on who was also a wrestling fan who I used to work with. And I said, do you want to talk about Hogan versus the Warrior on my podcast? So we talked about that, did the right man win? We were chatting among ourselves. I had him on for a couple more then. Then I started having my mates on from lockdown because I'm in a band as well, the Breakfast Club, 80s tribute band. I had my band on. I did a quiz with them and everything against one another. I had my other musical mates on just talking about how lockdown was for them, how many gigs they've cancelled, how they're feeling about when we can eventually get back into it. And then I was friends somehow with two childhood heroes of mine, Trevor and Simon, or Trev and Simon, as they now like to be known. On Facebook, I was friends with them for years, and always say happy birthday or what have you, as you do as a nicety. But one day I thought, oh, why not just ask Trevor if he fancies coming on for a chat? So I asked. Yeah. You ask, you receive. Yeah. He got back to me. He said, "Oh yeah, sorry, it's taken me a while to get back to you. I've been really busy. I spoke to Simon, and he's up for it as well. Can we do it on Zoom?" I'm like, I don't know, use Zoom, and I haven't got a decent laptop either, so I borrowed this very Apple Mac from my sister, which I now own.
Right.
Yeah. So I borrowed that off my sister, and I was like, yeah, let's do this. So we did it. We had Trevor and Simon on. It was absolutely great. We were reminiscing. I was chucking puns in as well. Like, I brought my duvet, and one of their sketches was the laundrette. We don't do duvets.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. So I chucked it all in there for them. They appreciated that. I appreciated them. From there, Sarah Greene liked it on Twitter. So I started talking to Sarah Greene, and I was like, well, the door's always open if you want to come on. She was like, I'd love to, Caiman. I'd love to. And I'm like, really? I was like, let's do it. I said, what are you doing, half hour? She's like, let's do it on this date. So we put a time in. And then I started getting ballsy then. I started just asking people. I got Cheryl Baker on. Recently, I got Carole F'N Baskin on. That was an interesting one from Tiger King.
I didn't see that one coming. That landed on my feed. I was like,
well, I'll be honest with you. The day I asked her was the day she came on.
Wow.
Because she sent me a diary, and I was like, do you know what? I think it was 3:00 in the afternoon I asked her, and she said, yeah, here's my diary, pick a time. I said, we'll do 5 p.m. tonight, thank you. And I just went in. I knew all about her anyway.
Yeah.
I had a quick little zoom on Wikipedia as well, just to see if there's anything else that I'd missed, which I would have, Dancing with the Stars and stuff, which she did. Yeah, so we went through that. I spoke to her about Tiger King, about Joe Exotic, about the great work she's doing with the big cats over there. At the end then, I spoke to her about Dancing with the Stars. So it was fluffy, but in the middle, I did have to ask that question.
You did, yeah.
I asked it. Yeah, of course I did, man. I'm the Caiman. That's what I do. I asked her, diplomatically, and I said, if you don't want to answer this question, don't want to talk about it, we'll move on. But I gave her the proverbial shit sandwich where fluffy, and there's your fill in right there, And she was happy to talk about it. I had a bit of controversy at the end of that one. People commenting on, Carole Baskin this, Carole Baskin that. I was like, right, if you've got something to say about it, why don't you come on and have a chat about it? I'm happy to hear the other side. And then they put me in touch with this guy then, Ripper, his name is, and apparently he's representing over in America Carole Baskin's former husband's family. So we've been on the email and everything. He said, oh yeah, I will come on. I'm going to watch your interview first. But that's the last I heard of him then. So yeah, but I've had loads of guests like that on. I've got loads coming up as well. I've got a couple of music labels involved now as well. So I get like up and coming stars coming on.
Yeah.
I had an author on the other day. She wrote the book Who Shot John Lennon, Bohemian Rhapsody. She wrote one on David Bowie as well. I'm having a nice variety. So while it is a wrestling podcast, it's not just a wrestling podcast. If you're with me, I love having wrestlers on. Like I had Robbie McAllister on the other day.
Yeah, I enjoyed that one.
Great guy. Yeah. I got a couple of others lined up as well. I've had some of the guys that I used to wrestle with on. I got a few of them coming back on as well. It's going really good. It's gone from strength to strength. And I ask anyone that's watching, because I am trying to build a channel, just go on YouTube, type in the Caiman Show, even just Caiman Show. And hit the subscribe for me, guys. There's loads of cool stuff coming up on there. There's loads of cool stuff already on there. There's loads of nostalgic stuff on there. Loads of wrestling stuff. It's cool, man. I like where it's going. It's a shame it took a lockdown and a global pandemic to get me into this, because it's like something I thoroughly enjoy doing. And I think you can tell I enjoy doing it when I'm doing it. It's great. Sometimes I do like 3 a day. Sometimes, I just love it.
It's so entertaining, and I'm a big follower. There's quite a few podcasts that I do follow, and I do try to watch everything. And
Wicked,
they are to do with certain things, but yours you never know. What I love about yours is you never really know where the next one's coming from, because it
I don't advertise either until I've had that guest on and we've made that recording and we're both satisfied with it and we both give it a thumbs up. I don't advertise it.
You don't know which, you don't know what field it's coming from. It could be TV.
That's it, exactly.
It could be, real life. I mean, I was going to ask an obvious one. Really, is how easy, or how have you found getting in touch, or is it just snowballed with a lot of these sort of the notable names, the celebrities?
What, grabbing the guest names and that?
Yeah.
It gets easier. The more you have, the easier it gets, if you're with me. Because, I tell you earlier, it's all about the pitch, It's like, I hope no one's watching this now that I want to have on the show, by the way, because I make myself sound 10 times bigger than I actually am. I make the show sound 10 times bigger than it actually is. Yeah. And I name drop like fuck the names which I think that they'll be able to associate with.
Sure.
Or that they'll have an interest in as well, or they might have worked with in the past. Like, for example, Cheryl Baker, she was on, and then I think I had Chesney Hawkes on after, so I name dropped Cheryl to Chesney and what have you. Chesney, by the way, was a great guy as well, I gotta say.
He was one of my, now I'm not going to say idols or anything, but when I was growing up, me and my mate, because he introduced me to his music when one only came out, and then I watched Buddy's Song, which was one of my favourite films back then, one of my favourite soundtracks up to now, still absolutely love listening to that. So when I saw it, I was like, you are kidding me. And, it's like, it's just one of those guys, I think, that I was like, I love the fact that you're getting these people. It's like, no disrespect, how are you getting so many people from everywhere? But it's so nice to watch. It
all started with Trev and Simon, it did, and I'll forever be thankful to them both. What a pair of great guys, They didn't need to come on this random wacky Welshman's show, with, I don't know, I think I had something like, I didn't have any subscribers then, actually, because I hadn't gone doing video then, Okay. So when they come on in April, the end of April, I didn't have any subscribers at all, yet they were up for it. They were like, yeah, come on, let's do it on Zoom. Yeah. So I'm thankful to them. That obviously led me on to Sarah Greene. There's 3 names then I could name drop, all right? And, do it. You've got them names, you name drop, you tell them. All right, no, it's, name dropping is somewhat of a negative term, I suppose, isn't it? It's not, let's not call it name dropping, let's call it just telling them who else has been on the show.
You're making that association, you're trying, yeah.
It's just like, right, so-and-so's been on, so you're basically giving a sort of seal of approval on your show, really, saying they've been on, and the list gets bigger and bigger. Trying to get David Hasselhoff on, because, he's seeing a girl from just up the road from me, but I'll keep trying. I will get him.
Yeah, you will.
Yeah, persistence is key.
Whether you want to divulge too much from this, or whether you want to keep some of them quiet, just in case you can get them. Have you got a bucket list of guests?
Sir, I want David Hasselhoff. I've always admired him. I've always thought he was awesome. He's a party animal. I'm a party animal. I always watched Knight Rider as a kid. I then turned to Baywatch. And I've seen a few of his movies. He's got a connection to Merthyr Tydfil, where I'm from. That's where he met his wife when she was working in the retail park there. Right, There's just so much to talk about with him, So he's on there. I did want Timmy Mallet on as well, but he's told me no. So I was a little disappointed in that.
I was just thinking in my head, no word of a lie, while we've been discussing some of these names, in the back of my head, I'm like, yeah, Timmy Mallet would be absolutely perfect to slot in there.
That's it. Well, Timmy Mallet in lockdown got me into painting, He got me into, I started doing painting and everything. I did the Janet Street Porter nude. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
I've seen that. I wasn't familiar with it until I saw your post. Just quickly, tell the little story about that, because I think it's hilarious.
Janet Street Porter nude. Well, it's in lockdown, basically. The quick version is I started painting landscapes, and then I came across on eBay this Pat Butcher nude, and I thought, oh my god, it sold for 200 quid, and it's terrible, and it don't look anything like her bar the earrings. So I thought, then who can I do in the nude? And then it was daytime TV, middle of lockdown. I thought Janet Street Porter would do her. So I sketched her out with the brushes, 20 minutes later, there's your Janet Street Porter nude. I put it on eBay. I tweeted the link to Loose Women. Next day, it's on Loose Women. And it's like, what the hell? And it's up to £8,000 on an eBay auction. I'm like, what the friggin' hell is going on here? My heart was pulsating, nearly bursting out of my chest. Few bids were retracted. It sold them for £5,500. But the buyer pulled out, and I thought, don't worry about it. I didn't report them or anything like that. I thought, this is a cool story. Don't worry about it. Yeah. It ended up in Cyfarthfa Castle and Museum, then it did, on the wall for about 4 months. Yeah. Not a shame, though, not because we were in lockdown. Not a lot of people got to see it because they were shut and everything for a lot of it. But still, it's a cool story. It's now just over there in my little cave here. But it's interesting stuff. But it was because of Timmy Mallet that I started painting. Cool. I always liked him in Wackaday years ago. He'd be a great guest. I wish he'd change his mind. Timmy, if you're listening, come on, back up your ideas, my old son. But yeah, he's doing this thing called Mallet's Palette now through lockdown, where he's just painting, and he's a terrific artist as well. Okay. And I just thought, right, I'm going to dig the paints out. I haven't painted for 20 odd years, but here we go. So I sold a few of them as well. So brilliant. Yeah, happy days. Cool. But come on, Timmy, man.
Get him on. There we go. There we go.
Yeah, so, but in terms of a bucket list, I don't really have anyone else there. It's often the case of, I'm watching TV or I'm chatting to people. People will recommend, people will say, why didn't you try so-and-so? That's where we go. Or if I randomly come across someone while I'm on Twitter, I'll be like, oh, you'd be good, Yeah. And it's just like, right, who's your agent? Let's give him a ring, and away we go.
So it started off a bit like-minded, totally like-minded, a lockdown project,
Definitely,
to focus my mind. So now the world is opening back up again. This is obviously something that you want to carry on and grow, or will it reach a point that you've got a body of work you can look back on and you'll move on to other things?
Nah, I'm doing this. I'm a lifer now. I think I love it. I absolutely love it, and I'm already thinking of other things I can do as a spin-off. Like I done spin-offs with the Caiman's crap quiz. I don't know if you watched any of those.
I did.
That's just me and the boys doing ridiculous things and me just ribbing them basically.
That was brilliant.
Yeah, great fun. I'm looking at doing some sort of Christmas special, having some of my past guests on for that as well. Together, So I'm looking at that. Blow it. I'm going to give the game away for you, right? I'm looking at, if they're up for it, Sarah Greene, Chesney Hawkes, and Cheryl Baker in Caiman's crap Christmas quiz, okay?
Yes.
Magic. The topics of choice are Chesney Hawkes, your topic is Hawks. Sarah Greene, your topic is the color green. Cheryl Baker, your topic is bakers. So I think that'd be terrific, and just ask them questions about those topics. It'd be hilarious. And they were three fantastic guests as well. The three of them are great. They got great charisma, great character, and they're lovely people as well. So it'd be lovely to have those on as well. But I'm always looking for the next thing, whether it's the next guest or whether it's just the next gimmick, really, So
that's such good news, for people like me who follow it. Anyway, to know it's not going anywhere. No. I'll be honest, I'll cancel nights out if I got a podcast. You know what I mean? Sorry, sis, I can't come to your wedding. I got a podcast. My wife, she's been very supportive. With the amount of nights that she's had to take over the time routine with the kids while I've been doing this. But it's always just like I gotta get this one in. It's always someone that you've got to make time for. But listen, this has been fantastic. Finding out.
Awesome, man. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
it's nice, man. It's been a while. We've been obviously, like you say, we met on that through that wrestling post. I forgot the Eugene one, and we've chatted online and that. It's nice to finally get to talk to you. It's good to meet you, man.
Yeah, thank you, mate. Man. Thank you, mate. And there's definitely a place for you to come back again, and we'll pick a topic of some description to delve into, I'm sure.
Fantastic. Well, hopefully you'll be the first ever Pro Carnage wrestling heavyweight champion.
Let's write that one down. Let's book that one in. You just got to do the hard work and
fingers and toes.
Listen, mate. So just in closing, you obviously you've told people where to find you on on YouTube. Just literally search for the Caiman Show. Where else can people find you to kind of keep up to date, like social media or where?
Social media, yes. I'm on Twitter, my personal account at Caiman Griffiths. I'm on Twitter, the Caiman Show as well. So I've got a Facebook account, Caiman Griffiths. It's normally hovering around 5,000 marks, so I can't accept people at the moment on there, but you can follow me on there, I think. Also, I've got on Facebook as well, The Caiman Show, and on Instagram as well, The Caiman Show on there as well. So get in touch. I'll always reply to people as well. And just, comment on the YouTube, guys. Let's get a community going. And don't forget to subscribe. It'll be awesome.
There we go. Thank you so much, Caiman. This has been an absolute blast, mate.
Thank you, my brother. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to like, share, and hit the subscribe button. Also follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Once Upon a Turnbuckle to keep updated about all future shows.